Hey y'all, welcome to Cornbread and Roses. I'm your friendly neighborhood organizer, Austin, and I'm here tonight with Red Mike.
Hello, comrades.
And yeah, we are one of the only socialist podcasts in Alabama and the most unprofessional podcast in the land, uh, maybe the world, possibly the known universe. And yeah, we're going to talk about the Alabama legislative session starting up, what's been going on in the area. We've had protests and stuff like that. We got the This Week in Socialist History, conspiracies, and we're going to start with some memes and media, you know. But how was your week, man, birthday boy?
Well, it's been a crazy week, as you might imagine. I've been following the news out of Minneapolis with abject horror. There's an American city that's basically under siege by federal occupation
Yeah,
forces, and a woman is dead.
yeah, yeah. One of many
Yeah, that's
that
true.
have been killed by the government. You know, there's at least 30 plus folks that have died in detention, and there were a couple people shot up in Portland too. I haven't seen the latest on that. Last time I saw, they were in the hospital. But you know, my one of my daughters today asked me, said, "Dad, can I go outside on a walk? I heard ICE is doing door to door raids now," which they are up in St. Paul. So I told her not to worry about it, but that's the world we live in, ain't it?
Apparently so. So I'm interested in talking too about how the Huntsville area had their protests and what happened as a result of that. I wasn't able to attend because I had to work, but Austin, weren't you able
Yeah.
to make it?
So there was a protest, an emergency protest about Venezuela. The ICE vigil at City Hall and protest during and speakers during, I wasn't able to make it. I, like many Americans, experienced the worst flu in decades. So we had flu going on through the house. So I got to actually, I fell asleep. I was in a meeting for the spokes council and I actually fell asleep during the meeting because I was so worn out.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, yeah, we had the spokes council this week. There was the
I
People's
was there for
Movement.
that.
Yeah. There was the People's Movement Assembly on Saturday.
I had to
Um,
work for that too. I had to work Saturday.
and I got to attend that remotely. A lot of good stuff there. The resist and build, you know, uh, mantra. Then what else? There's throughout the state, there were 50-51 had several protests throughout the state. And, but yeah, the folks at Indivisible, they've been pushing the city to sign a non cooperation agreement for ICE. So that was one of the things that happened at protest and vigil and uh, everything on Thursday. Or, yeah, it was Thursday. Um, and still rolling along. How many, I mean, we've protested all throughout the country, you know, is, I don't know if you've seen the video on that stuff up in Minneapolis.
I've seen a few videos,
Yeah.
mostly of ice agents slipping and falling on the ice, which has been
Uh,
funny.
yeah.
But a lot of less funny videos about them brutalizing people, shoving
Yeah.
people around, spraying pepper spray in their face at point blank range.
Yeah. I saw them attacking kids at a school.
I saw that too.
And it's just, mm-mm-mm-mm. That's fascism, folks.
Yep, the fascism is here for sure.
But remember that fear is their tool They want to use it to make you submit and obey in advance. And we just can't. We
Right.
just,
It sucks to be in a fight. It sucks to find yourself in a fight. But when you find yourself in a fight, like, you really only have a couple of options, and one of them is to fight back. And I know it's scary. I know you may have to leave your comfort zone, but if you don't want to live under a fascist dictatorship, it's important to stand up now.
yeah,
And it's a bit cliche to say this, but whatever, if you think you would have been a resistance freedom fighter during the 30s in Nazi Germany, like, now is that time. So whatever you're doing now is what you would have been doing then.
that's right. And more people are waking up. And I like our odds. I like our odds. But it's going to require sacrifice. It's going to require more than doing a podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
And
More than posting. I'm big about posting.
yeah,
I have to
uh,
get off the internet.
you know, got to recruit, build, communicate, come up with strategic campaigns, execute them, engage in, mutual aid, labor unions and workers co-ops, community defense, electoralism, and direct action.
And
And,
civil disobedience.
you know, and,
Emphasis on the disobedience.
and yeah, and the best way to be disobedient is, in my opinion, for a strike action throughout the nation. Um, more history I read, whoa, back in the day, they really got the goods, folks. And that is, in my opinion, the people's superpower. But with that, let's speaking of, let's start with a little fun. Hey, if the workers are organized, all they have to do is put their hands in their pockets and they have got the capital class whipped. Big Bill Hayward.
Big
Back in,
Bill. Look him up. He's got an interesting life story.
he certainly does. That is a evergreen quote, as they say. If 10 capitalists are trapped in a burning building and you only have time to save one, what kind of sandwich are you making?
Ah,
What kind of sandwich, indeed? I'd probably have to go with Philly cheesesteak.
fair enough. I'm a big fan of the banh mi. I have to go with the banh mi.
Okay, okay. One of the first fusion recipes, probably not ever, but definitely in the 20th century. When she looks at your phone, but all she can find is Bergie's, Borgiosi, Borgosi.
Yeah, it's hard to spell. Like, that's the hardest part about being a leftist, right? Is that you have to learn how to spell words like proletariat and bourgeoisie.
Yeah. Oh, it's from the last capitalist we hang shall be the one who sold us the rope. That's Billie Eilish, folks.
I'm a big Billie Eilish fan, actually. I enjoy pop. I enjoy pop music unironically, and
Yeah,
I like Billie Eilish quite a bit.
she's I think she, like, her and her brother is like in, like, when that's how their whole thing started. It's like, so that was pretty cool. She works with her sibling on stuff. Police vision test. Do you have the skills to be a cop? Pizza, gun. Melissa Williams, 2013. A Bible. Mark Venuti, 2002. Gun. Hair comb. Kill Copen, 2007. Gun. Garden hose sprayer. Douglas Zerby, 2010. Gun. An ID. LeVar Jones, 2014, gun. A toy gun, John Crawford, 2014, in the toy gun section at Walmart, gun. A finger, David Lovelace, 2012, gun. Bottle of medicine, Remain Brisbane, 2014, gun. And rescue or rendering first aid to somebody, Charles Kinsey and his unnamed patient, 2016, gun.
Yeah.
It's just, no words.
Yeah, no words.
Remember when they said all lives matter? Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Yeah, that was always a lie.
Yeah.
They just didn't like people saying Black Lives Mattered.
Just do what they say and you won't get hurt, is what we tell hostages, not free citizens interacting with police. Hey, make the rich fight their own goddamn wars. We got Baron Trump here. Fuck this bullshit. Conscript Baron. Make the rich kids fight. Human sacrifices pleases the line. It's probably I probably need to be a cheerier voice on that. I don't know how to do an anime girl voice.
I once saw a tweet that said the stock market is basically a graph of rich people's feelings, and I have taken that to heart.
Very true. I think I'm gonna have to let the dogs in. We got Superman as capitalism. Who the fuck are you? And yeah. Oh, why am I not remembering his name?
Homelander.
Thank you. As fascism. I'm you when times get tough. And last one from our man Fred Hampton. No matter what color you are, there are only two classes. Ain't that right, Fred? So yeah, that's the fun, folks. Yeah, did you get that? What is it? Did you get that? What is it called? Calendar.
Calendar. I haven't gotten the calendar yet. We'll have to use your calendar until mine comes in. I ordered it a couple of weeks ago. I don't know why it hasn't come in yet.
There's some kind of weird irony or something with a calendar not coming in on time. I don't know.
I know, right?
And I also thought to myself, hey, this calendar is kind of reusable but I can't believe it's been a year we use the whole thing. Let me get these dogs in real quick. 1 second.
So yeah, now's my chance to take over the show, and I have nothing. So there we are.
Sorry, folks. This week in socialist history, I got like one major one. You got anything?
I don't, not really. Today, the 11th, is the history of Alabama seceding from the Union in order to fight for the planters, which is unfortunate.
Well,
that's about all I've got.
At least they lost.
At least they lost.
Well, I got one here from 50 years ago. This week, U.S. inflation spikes following into price controls. Can you imagine that? We use price controls, but on January 11th, 73, Nixon ended phase 2 of his economic stabilization plan, which is supposed to limit inflation. And then phase 3 went into effect. Many of the controls were removed, allowing business to dramatically increase their prices. In the 11-day period following, the CPI rose at an annualized rate of 102%. The index for industrial materials jumped 156%. So inflation been steadily increasing in the 60s. And the process had come to a head in August 71 when Nixon unilaterally scrapping of the Bretton Woods system of dollar gold convertibility move triggered substantial inflation in virtually every country and forced Nixon into a series of ad hoc measures in a desperate bid to maintain the value of the dollar and head off a growing strike movement in the working class. Sounding all too familiar. But the plan was oversaw by a pay board and a price commission. And in spite of the rhetoric about price controls, the administration's primary purpose was to act in the interests of big business and suppress the wage demands of workers. Phase 3 temporarily extended price controls on just 3 industries particularly prone to inflation: food, healthcare, and construction. Huh. Where are we at now, folks? No price controls on agricultural products, creating a disparity between the cost of food and the prices at the store. Pay board claimed to be removing the wage controls that had been put in place. At the same time, however, Nixon threatened unions if they demanded more than a 5.5% increase in wages. In most cases, the unions kowtowed to Nixon, setting in motion a wave of wildcat strikes driven by rank and file that continued throughout the 70s. I think we were still like at a 30-something% unionization rate back to. In addition to the wage control measures, the administration continued a major assault on workers who took strike action to defend living standards. In the weeks leading up to the scrapping of price controls, he called for the use of riot police. History rhymes, don't it? To break up picket lines, striking newspaper guild workers in Cleveland, Ohio, and Wilmington, Delaware. Workers were determined to fight back. In a major struggle that broke out the same week, 13,000 teachers in Philadelphia went on strike demanding pay increases to keep up with inflation, no increases in classroom sizes, and no layoffs. The school board had not offered any raises to the teachers in the new year, also planning to increase classroom sizes and extend the school day to allow for the firing of 385 teachers. Speaking to the attitude of militancy in the working class in the period, one worker told a reporter from the Bulletin, the U.S. predecessor of the World Socialist website, "I'm prepared to walk this picket line for 4 months if that's what it takes to get a decent contract." That's how I feel, and that's how most of the teachers on this picket line feel. So that's this week in socialist history. Just kind of focused on one, which brings us to Conspiracy of the Week. So, this website, dog, getwokeup.com. Man, I do not know what is going on with this thing, but it is fascinating. I can't tell if this is like Onion level. I cannot tell anymore. Reality is satire. All that. But this here, 9 conspiracy theories that will come true in 2028. Okay, this global predictive intelligence expert and former NSA agent Chico Estrada is back with his annual GWU conspiracy predictions for 2026. Chico, who correctly predicted both of Trump's presidential wins, a rise and fall of AI slop, I don't know about the fall, and the COVID pan/scamdemic, is one of the industry leaders in foreseeing the moves of the rich and powerful even before the deep state. That said, Estrada confides to American #1 source of newstainment that while he's batting 1,000 for his predictions this year, he could never have foreseen his own divorce and losing custody of his 2 children.
Come on, this can't be serious.
Dude, in 2025. Aside from that, prepare to sit back, relax, and let Chico Estrada's conspiracy theory spoiler alerts prep you to the smartest man in the 2026 room. We got Charlie Kirk's Island Life Turning Point. Uh, Dude, the the bit is so good. Estrada, who is no stranger to island life, he owned an Aruba timeshare with his ex-wife for nearly a decade. Predicts Charlie Kirk is in live as well, living off a small island off the coast of Venezuela. Prove me wrong. But the Charlie Kirk psyop was one of the top 2026 events. This year, the whole thing will be revealed to be staged between Israel's Mossad and Trump's MAGA to incite U.S. civil war. Uh, Jewish psyop guy stars in Bondi Beach reality show. Uh, Jewish psyop guy who had an unforgettable performance in October 7th massacre revised his role in Bondi Beach. Uh, Said the recently divorced father of two.
There's no way this is real.
Dude, turbo cancer gets a boost. Single and ready to mingle Estrada. Correctly predicted the COVID-19 scandemic for his 2018 conspiracy forecast. Kids are dying from so-called pandemic vaccines. God knows if I could actually see my kids, I'd do everything I could to keep them from being poisoned with MNRA by Big Pharma, says the eligible bachelor and certified pureblood. Yeah, there is oddly enough higher cancer rates in children nowadays. Cancer rates are apparently skyrocketing in children. Great Indian replacement theory, that what intelligence agencies call browning a nation to bring its destruction. Yeah, Taylor Swift, dude looks like a lady. Taylor Swift is going to be exposed as a man this year, observes Estrada, who vaguely recalls taking his daughter to one of the era concerts before the family fell apart. It's just on and on. It's a classic distraction technique. You're distracted trying to sneak a peek at Taylor's tiny pecker while crooked Donnie Trump is making Torah-sized deals with the Jews. Taylor's relationship with Travis Kelce is a perfect bread and circus sports ball distraction the deep state plays. Yeah, and the transgender farce will come full circle with like celebs like Swift and Big Mike outing
Who is
themselves.
Big Mike?
He's part of Run the Jewels. He's a rapper out of Atlanta. He's like,
I thought that was Killer Mike.
Oh, maybe that is Killer Mike. My bad. Who is Big Mike? Let's see.
An American rapper. He was born in New Orleans and grew up in Houston. He joined the Ghetto Boys, a hip hop group from Houston, in 1992.
Oh my God, that's a long ass time ago. That's a deep cut. Yeah. Killer Mike, that's right, not Big Mike. I just saw Mike. I was like,
oh, yeah, Killer Mike. It's part of Run the Jewels. I love Run the Jewels.
Yeah. Although he's like not as like, I don't know. He could back some more of that shit up a little bit, I think. Like he seems to fall in with the capitalists more often than not. Servers of AI slop serves dead internet theory. Said Estrada, despite being the breadwinner of his family, had it all taken away by a Biden selected judge.
They keep laying on the divorce stick. So yeah, this site is a parody. It's not a serious conspiracy site.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, they keep leaning on the divorce bit, which is funny.
Yeah. Goal is, of course, control and profit. Who was recently catfished, said Estrada, who was recently catfished by a Ukrainian fashion model. Dead internet is maintained by corporations and governments to stealthily guide consumption, politics, and culture while maximizing profit through ad revenue. I mean, they're on point on a lot of this. CBDCS solved the manufactured global economic crash. Entire economic deck is about to be reshuffled. Um, he says that the new form of money will be presented as a global solution to fiat currency solvency. All read-in governments will tout CBDCs as secure, reliable, and convenient. I think he's like crypto-backed dollars, something like that. Strada, who's having trouble covering his own rent as well as that of his ex-wife's freeloading welfare collecting drug dealing boyfriend, explains that money will be spent on groceries, fuel, and approved retailers, not saved, not used for crypto, not sent abroad. Is that tartaria hidden in your pocket, or are you just happy to fake history to me? The advanced global civilization known as Tartaria will be confirmed to 100% exist. And and then number one, Alien Disclosure is broadcast live and is canceled due to low ratings. Forget the little green men who said as laughs Estrada, who was told by his ex he was too short to board her mothership. Yeah. So that's this week in conspiracy theory. I found this site and I think I kind of love it.
Well, I like the divorce. I like the divorce bit. They hit it a little bit too often, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah.
Trans jokes I could do without, but other than that, not bad.
And yeah, that led me down to some other rabbit holes. But they have a podcast too. How to make an AI podcast. Yeah,
Oh
I don't.
no.
Yeah, and apparently they have an AI DJ or an AI host that they do the podcast with. So I'm gonna stay away from that. But yeah, that's this week. All right, and I guess that brings us to the news director.
So let's see. What do I want to start with? Well, the Alabama governor's race has kind of begun in earnest with both Tuberville and Doug Jones announcing their officially starting their campaigns and registering what's it called? Not registration, but qualification.
Mm.
Happened last week. So there's that. Doug Jones is already the favorite to be the winner of the Democratic primary, even though he's got candidates like Will Boyd running against him. Somewhere I have an article about 1 month in, Doug Jones's fundraising makes him the clear Dem favorite for Gov. So he raised more than $48,000. I'm sorry, $480,000 in
480.
December.
Yeah.
And he raised more than a week the Democratic rivals have raised in 3 months. So it's looking like, based on money, Doug Jones is the front runner for the
Yeah,
Democratic race.
he appears to be catching up, or he's out fundraising Tuberville.
Well, he outraised Tuberville in December. It's true, but you still got to figure that Tuberville is sitting on a lot of money.
Yeah. He has a head start for sure.
So Jones has $560,000. Why can't I do numbers? $560,000 in his campaign account. So, and you compare that to Will Boyd and Chad Chig Martin, who took in a combined $7,400. Martin has just over $11,000 on hand, and Boyd has just under $6,500 in his account, which is sad because I like Will Boyd. So Tuberville only brought in $150,000 for the month, but he has more than $6 million in his campaign accounts.
There it is.
most of which come by way of major contributions from businesses. So the business class is bought off, the Epstein class is bought off Tommy Tuberville.
That's right. And I know he gets APAC money because all of them, all our elected federal officials get APAC money.
So Tuberville has more than tenfold the amount of money that Doug Jones has, which does not bode well for the campaign.
The thing, and is he evolving at all on his messaging and policy platform, or has he even gotten that up yet? Maybe we should check real quick.
Let's see if I can find his website. Doug Jones for governor.
Doug Jones for governor.
I can't see a website. Doug Jones for Alabama. DougJones.com. You can watch a replay of Doug's campaign kickoff here. I think I'll skip that. Thank you. Why I'm running.
His SEO sucks because his campaign website doesn't come up first.
Oh yeah, right. It's like the third or fourth. It's the sixth item down on my search engine. I use DuckDuckGo. So because it doesn't have Doug Jones for governor, it just says DougJones.com or Doug Jones for Alabama. So he's running on a state lottery, early voting, no more straight ticket ballot.
Okay.
Every measure possible to protect families, so Alabama wouldn't earn an F on maternal health from the March of Dimes. Protected IVF and contraception, and expanded Medicaid.
Okay.
So he's really hammering on that lottery thing.
Which, again, how creative are they going to be with how they use that revenue, which looks to be over $2 billion a year that goes out of the state. But nothing about taxing the rich, nothing about raising wages. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's this article from CBS 42 talking about Tuberville Jones talk priorities if elected Alabama governor. So here's what they're prioritizing. So Tuberville says improving education and infrastructure in the state are top of mind, quote unquote. So here's another quote directly from Tuberville. We're bringing manufacturing back. I can't do a Tuberville voice, so you'll have to imagine it. You drive. I've been all over the state many times, and I see empty building after empty building, Tuberville said. That needs to be over with. We need to fill those buildings up. We need to have good jobs, good paying jobs.
Cool.
And Jones says he'll tackle affordability and the cost of health care in Alabama. He also wants to see Alabamians vote on bringing a lottery to the state. Of course. Tuberville says he's not opposed to a lottery. He said, but it won't make or break the state, which is probably not unreasonable for something that Tommy Tuberville has said.
Unlike what is it? As he hid from all the rioters at the Capitol on January 6th, right. He's now calling them patriots and heroes.
Oh yeah, he's like Tuberville was also his response to the shooting of Renee Good was to tell ICE agents to, if they're under attack, to shoot back,
shoot more.
You know? Yeah, shoot back in capital letters on X. So like he says plenty of dumb stuff, but I don't like. I've said this before. I have very mixed feelings about the lottery. I guess if it were up for a vote, I would vote for it just to capture the revenue. But I'd much rather see a restructuring of Alabama's tax system. Maybe we could do both. Lottery is definitely the lower hanging fruit, but I just don't think it's. I don't think it's the issue that's going to motivate Alabamians to not vote straight party Republican. I don't think the hearts of Alabamians are on fire to have a lottery that much.
Our low quality and it's in the notes, y'all. The working class policy um, survey we got out there, which we still need more respondents. So take it and share it. But top two things were taxing the rich and raising wages. Top two things by far. And the lottery was around 30% of respondents had that in their top seven. So,
So there are other articles about campaign kickoffs for this season since it is election year. So this is from Alabama Reflector. Alabama Democratic congressional candidates say they're optimistic for 2026, which I personally find to be just delusional. And it's the usual suspects: Lee McInnes for the 3rd Congressional in East Alabama, Amanda Pushchek, I guess, for
yes.
the 4th Congressional District running across North Central Alabama, Andrew Sneed in the 5th Congressional District in North Alabama. Again, like beating Dale Strong is probably just not in the cards to the Democrats of Alabama. U.S. Senate candidates Dakari Lariat and Mark Wheeler.
Well, if there is going to be a third Democrat in office, it would be the 5th Congressional District.
You think so? You think we're the weak point?
We're the bluest for sure.
Lower than Mobile or Montgomery?
Well, that the bluest of those other five, right?
I see.
Yeah, if there and there's quite a few candidates. There's also Jeremy DeVito for Congressional District 5.
Yeah, I saw that too. He's a DSA member as well.
Yeah, and so is Amanda. They're both DSA members. Um, yeah, I think we mentioned a video last week about Jeremy, and but here's my theory on what. Here, oh yeah, here's my conspiracy prediction for 2026. No.
Okay, lay it on us.
Here's my thought on this stuff. Like, I I think Doug Jones will win the primary. I think he will probably lose the election for governor, but I think he will drive out a lot of voters, a lot of Democratic voters, and there was like a 58% turnout rate at the last presidential election, which was like lowest bottom four in the nation, something like that. He'll drive out more Democratic voters, which will get. And if you look at the Dems are filling up the ballot uh, with candidates, unlike last election, and there'll be. I think the Republican vote will be suppressed because of uh, how everything Trumpy is going. His latest stat that I saw was now it's something like 17% of Republicans view themselves as MAGA versus like a high of like 55%. So I don't think he'll win the election. He could if he does things right. I don't see that going that way yet, but I think we're about to have our own little blue wave in Alabama at the state level. And if there's any congressional district, uh, it'll be District 5 to have somebody elected that's a Democrat. I don't know about the Senate race though. Like, uh, who's the Republicans that are running for Senate?
Let's see. It's Steve Marshall,
That's right.
who is currently the
AG.
yeah, the AG. I can't think of. I can't do words. Steve Marshall is sort of the elephant in the room, so to speak. There's also Barry Moore, the who's currently a U.S. representative. Jared Hudson, who I think is a former Navy SEAL. and Morgan Murphy, a former advisor to Senator Tuberville and President Trump. And I just don't. I think Steve Marshall is the person to beat.
Yeah, it's either that other rep or Marshall. The other
Yeah.
two, those are probably also Rands.
Yeah, exactly. So
We also have Philip Insler. He had an election event a few people went to. So there's close to 200 people there, which, yeah, speaking of more than 100 people at the RSA Activity Center in Montgomery. There were some folks from the Alabama Progress server that attended that to check it out. The but the thing with that is like the lieutenant governor basically his only power is to break a tie in the Senate. You know, he serves on some boards and stuff like that, but it should be like and the governor and the lieutenant governor run separate races. It's not like the presidency where they're on the same ticket or whatever.
right, they're elected separately. So yeah, I my own attitude is I am pretty much a doomer when it comes to elections in Alabama. Like I don't see the Democrats winning a statewide race. I think most of the local races are going to be lost. But it's still important to run campaigns because I think campaigns have cultural changing power. And I'm thinking specifically of things like, Bernie Sanders ran for president twice and failed, but look at the movement he built in the wake of his runs. And I think that there is power to build movements and to build support for more radical ideas through campaigning. But these centrist milquetoast Democrats are not running campaigns that inspire me personally. Now, maybe the average Alabamian Democrat will find them inspiring, but speaking for myself, I do not. I just can't get that excited about a lottery. And like in this article you linked to, Philip Ensler talks about like reaching out to the other side, and to his credit, he does say some things about people having to drive hours to get to an emergency room, having to go a long distance in order to deliver a baby, like the closing of the rural hospitals. He talks about a lottery. He's with Jones in the lottery.
Yeah, and so they're pretty hand in hand on the issues, and like I mean, and not to dismiss like honestly like centering healthcare, if that's your key piece, it's not a bad piece to pick. Like,
Absolutely,
you know,
I agree with that. I I don't know. I think the value in running campaigns in Alabama is for cultural transformation, and I don't see these campaigns as being transformative in nature. Like, because we're not aiming at winning these elections. We're aiming at winning elections 10 years from now, because it's just not realistic to think that we're going to win elections this year.
right, right. And there's that's why like have to attack on all fronts, right? Like all those pillars that I mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
And with that though, like the folks that are running that are more progressive, like DeVito and Puzchek, uh, and other like Robert Hunter down in the description box, TSA chat, North Alabama DSA chapter endorsed Robert Hunter, running against one of the worst people in the legislature, Mac Butler. So I mean, you compare this to 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, like I think that there is a very much there's a sea change going on in the state with progressives and socialists running for office. I mean, I've looked in the history of Alabama, and it's pretty unprecedented to me. Like you could maybe look back in the 30s when the black socialists were like getting together and making changes. They had some wins, but that's basically 100 years ago.
Right.
So
So it's just, I mean, it's a long haul type thing. I'm a little
yes,
frustrated with the progress of it. I think electoralism consumes a lot of resources and time compared to its out to what it puts out. So it's just not bearing fruit commensurate with the resources it consumes. Even though
well,
it's essential to contest elections.
and one thing with that though is like this is now we're 10 months out,
Right.
so this is very like concentrated amount of time when the electoral work happens. But we got to remember that there's 2 years, there's another 4 years, and all that time in between, we still have to be doing stuff other than electoralism.
Right. Like organizing your workplace. You can organize your workplace into a union at any point in time. You can go on strike at any point in time. You can do civil disobedience at any point in time.
Yeah, and just since we mentioned that, I'm just going to mention a few things that our DSA chapter has been helping with, like the
Absolutely.
Starbucks Workers United work. There's about 3,800 baristas in 180 plus stores in 130 plus cities that have been fighting for a union contract. And we've had organizers out in Madison and Huntsville uh, doing support work for them, putting out flyers, talking to people. Uh, so that work is still going on. We had me. I went and spoke about the flock cameras or the AI cameras on the garbage trucks a few months ago, and that whole thing. But there's also there was a deflock tour with the guy who created deflock.me, Will Freeman. He's actually from this area, but he lives up in Colorado now. He came and did a tour around Christmas time. Got to speak to him. That was on the news. And we've had, a lot of rallies, protests, Bridge Brigade stuff. There's more stuff coming up this week. On the 20th, there's an event for Women's Day. You take 20 minutes at 2 that day, or try not to show up at all. But we had folks out in December when Hegseth came in town. This Thursday, I believe, is going to be another Bridge Brigade. So, yeah. And
I like that as a tactic, holding up the banners. Normally I'm down on holding up signs, but I think it's at least an innovation. It's not marching around in a circle holding up a sign, but it's holding up signs so people can see them. So so I'm glad to see that.
yeah, I mean, the amount of traffic on the road, right? Uh, you you can definitely get a message delivered out there. So what else? We haven't even gotten to the legislative session. We got anything else before we jump to that?
Not really. So there's not much to say about the legislative session right now, other than it starts on Tuesday. And Tuesday is also the day that Governor Ivy is going to give her State of the State speech to talk about her legislative priorities for the upcoming term. We've covered some of the bills that are coming up. Um, the bills that require the Pledge of Allegiance and the first stanza of the Star Spangled Banner to be performed at schools. The bills to abolish the death penalty and to reform Alabama's broken parole system and things like that. I meant to go through the Allison database, and I did look through the Allison database today and try to pick out some of the ones that I thought were more interesting. A lot of the bills that are up are just boring, straightforward bills. Like there's one that creates the crime of doxing, so which looks pretty straightforward. Like there's nothing to be like terribly concerned about other than it makes it illegal to dox people. Um, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong about
Yeah.
that particular bill, but
The question is, how will it be implemented, right?
right. I didn't read the text of the bill.
Oh, you didn't? Oh,
No. Yeah, sorry. I was lazy. I was lazy this afternoon, but I did dig through the Allison thing with the upcoming bills. It looks like they haven't brought back any of the more vicious anti-trans bills that were of such concern last session. There was
that's
one that,
usually Butler or Elliott, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
yeah, and I did see a bill to make it easier to remove library officials. So
Yeah,
next week
and there
I'll
is a
have
new. I was going to say, and there's a new head of public library system coming in. Uh, where too many tabs.
I
Too
know,
many.
right? That's my problem too. I'm having to dig through all these tabs. So next week I'll have a more comprehensive list of bills that I'm concerned about or that I support, which is basically only three. There's three bills I support and a bunch that I oppose. So we'll see how it. I'll have a little bit better idea of that next week, and also we'll see what they're actually bringing to the floor. So what their priorities are for this week. Meanwhile, the ACLU of Alabama has released a list of their priorities for this session, including defending the right to vote, fighting for criminal legal reform, protecting First Amendment rights, and ensuring maternal health and reproductive justice. So the ACLU is going to be working on that. They're supporting Chris England's legislation to end the death penalty,
Yeah, yeah.
which is nice.
I spoke at the Alabama legislative session in Huntsville, right? So it was a collection of the state senators and state reps from the area, and I spoke on HB 20, is to expand the death penalty. Uh, they actually have it on their Huntsville website if you want to take a look at all the speakers. But so it was originally advertised uh, like from 5:30 to 8, right? Then, like the day before, it was changed to 6 to 7. And then we get there, and of course, there's like almost 20 minutes of talking and introducing. And so basically, there was about 40 minutes worth of people speaking. And there was, I don't know how this lady did it, but there was a lady who lost her son. He was at football practice and had a cardiac event, and like nobody knew how to use the AED devices and didn't know where they were and all this. So she was there to speak on that, but I don't know how she got through that. Her husband was up there talking with her, but I wanted to cry listening. But there is that bill too, so which would train people and make people more aware of the locations, also fix the locations where they're most likely to be needed. Like, when I was in high school, um, the principal's daughter, it, like, she passed away in the gym during PE, and horrible. She was a sweet girl, and maybe if that device existed back then and it was in that gym, she could have been saved. So, and maybe this lady's son could have been saved. So that's
Wow.
something to look out to. And also, there's Miss Lands. She was there. My speech made her smile. As a matter of fact, when I was walking away, she was smiling at me.
You were a
Uh,
good speech giver. You were very good at giving speeches, which I mean, I think you've been talking about running for office. I think you'll be very good on the stump.
hey, thank you, brother. It's gonna take getting beating my taking my old worn out hips and back and out the street knocking on doors. But yeah, folks, I'm thinking about running for office as um, for the Madison County School Board District 3. I'll be making a decision on that like Thursday. Filing deadline is like the 23rd. You need like for that for that gig, you gotta. I plan on running as a Democrat, and this is you have to pay 2% of the salary to the party. So I can afford this because they only get paid $900 a month. So I can afford the 2% of that. Can't really afford it, but I'm gonna probably throw my hat in the ring. So I appreciate you. I'll need donations and volunteers and somebody who knows how to run a campaign and a website. Maybe I should start with a website before I
Yeah.
say anything.
I am shocked at the people who are not website savvy in this late age of 2025.
And it's a lot to keep track of, right? Like
I guess so.
there's a Facebook page that's going to have to be created, then probably TikTok and
Oh
all
yeah,
of this, and
TikTok.
then your platform, understanding the job, understanding what you can change and do. I talked to Adam Keller, one of our brothers in arms, with the Valley Labor Report and also with Alabama Arise. He's doing uh, the I got here the Worker Power Campaign Director. So I talked to him. He's a former teacher, uh, and he gave me some insight. He basically said, if you listen, you'll be head and shoulders above anybody else on the board. So, hey, I can do that. I can shut up. I don't have to talk the whole time. Um, so, but he was encouraging. So, uh, and I've got some encouragement from my partner. So, but not to beat a dead horse, I mentioned Maryland lands. Um, this bill I'm excited about, which is a ballot initiative to let voters directly influence legislation.
I like that too. I think that would open up a new avenue for advocacy where we
I
could
mean,
get bills in place without and bypass our shut it up legislature.
yeah, it's definitely a step towards direct democracy, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that what else we got with the ACLU uh, legislation to support formerly incarcerated citizens regaining their right to vote? I think even if you're in jail, you should be able to vote.
Absolutely. They do it in Australia and it hasn't led to the collapse of their civilization.
All right, and early voting in the state, um, which is Senate Bill 24 from State Senator Linda Coleman Madison. She's got that hyphen on there. I got a Coleman Madison. Uh, is already in the works to restore voting rights to individuals. ACLU rejects barriers to voting, and legislation that limits access to the ballot for people that are blind, disabled, and unable to read or write, which is especially the read and write part. There's more people than should, be in that situation. Um, there's They're also targeting the prison system, which came under scrutiny thanks to the little HBO documentary. There's actually another viewing session on uh, February 4th by, I think, 5051 Alabama is doing it. So if you want to watch it with some folks, hey, get on the server and we'll check it out. What else we got here? We're forming the parole board with Chris England. He's really focused in on some bills for the justice system. Yeah, the 80 ADOC. And yeah, their ACLU is also supporting legislation to end the death penalty, opposing the efforts to criminalize constitutionally protected activity and partial penalties, put more people in prison without addressing the roots of crime, which we talk about all the time. Good health care, good mental health care, thriving wages, a place to live, you know, those things, you know. When you have those things, desperation is not bred among the population. Education kills Nazis dead, folks. In the crib. And we got some stuff with IVF and reproductive justice, bodily autonomy. So some good goals by the ACLU. Wow.
Absolutely.
Are you surprised? I'm not. And they also they're having a session in Montgomery to work the ledge. They do this yearly, and they're not the only group that does it, but they're one of the primary groups that does it for sure. But there's a work the ledge session coming up. I think
Saturday, January the 24th.
Thank you very much.
From 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Elevation Convening Center in 600 Montgomery Street, Montgomery, Alabama.
There we go. You got all the deets.
So yeah, that's the annual Work the Ledge legislature for Work the Ledge community teach-in for the ACLU. I know it doesn't seem like much, but I wouldn't sleep on contacting your legislators, and learning how to communicate with them. Like Altrac has really, I keep bragging on Altrac, the Alabama Trans Rights Action Coalition. So they've really shown me the value of contacting legislators in order to kill bad bills. Like, you can't change their minds, but you can change their priorities. And they've had enormous success at delaying or even killing some of the worst anti-trans bills that tried to come through the pipe last year. So,
and actually, Allison, one of the organizers with Altrac, she was at the legislative session and gave a tremendous speech. Like, seriously, folks, go to the Huntsville website, watch all the speeches. They were all great. Erica with Rainbow Trouble gave a speech on sex education. Chris, one of our DSA members, gave a speech about the bill to formally recognize Israel as Judea or some madness. Marissa with At the Root, she gave a speech on the justice system. I mean, there were a lot of good speakers, folks. Really encourage y'all to check all that out. Not just because I was there. And
so yeah, I definitely encourage you to go to the Work the Ledge session and learn how to talk to your legislators and get them to change their priorities on certain bad bills that are coming through the pipe. It doesn't look like they're up to as much really scandalous stuff as they have been in previous years this year, but it's a short session for them because they're trying to get done and get back on the fundraising and campaign trail.
Right. So that's the thing, is like during an election year, fundraising is suspended up to like 120, like if they're in session and if it's not 120 days out. So the fundraising, is it suspended right now? I think it gets suspended on Tuesday till the 19th. So the 19th, so on the 20th, people can start fundraising again. Yeah. So, from the 13th through the 19th. So if you call and use their time, they have less time and they hear your stories. Work on your storytelling. If you don't got a good story about how this stuff impacts you, find a good story from one of your people, right? Your family members or friends or whatever. But storytelling is power when you're communicating stuff. You know, people talk about like, rationality and logic and stuff. And, we're emotional beings, folks. So tap into those emotions. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have a much more comprehensive list next week. We'll be able to see what they're prioritizing, what they were actually bringing to the floor and debating, and we'll have some advice for reaching out to your congressman or your congresswoman, as the case may be, and letting them know what you think about particular bills.
Yeah. So, what else we got on the docket?
So I only have a couple more items that I wanted to mention. One is the Alabama Supreme Court is considering whether police can demand an ID.
Hmm.
So on Wednesday morning, they heard arguments from the city of Childersburg and a group of police officers, along with Pastor Michael Jennings, who was watering his neighbor's flowers in Childersburg. Police approached him because his neighbor had reported a younger black male at the property. Like he was just like someone had called the cops on him because he was black and existing.
I remember this story now.
So yeah. So he told the officers his name was Pastor Jennings and that he lived across the street. He refused to give the officers his ID, and then they charged him with obstructing government operations. So Jennings sued the city and the officers, and even though his case was dismissed in 2023, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit ruled in 2024 that the officers did not have probable cause for his arrest. And then the lower court has asked this Alabama Supreme Court to weigh in on whether Alabama law enforcement can require physical identification when someone gives an incomplete or unsatisfactory oral response. So obviously, Jennings' attorney argued that officers do not have the right to demand ID from just anyone, and I'm inclined to agree. The
And he was on
ACLU,
a man was on private property watering. Like, isn't that one of the foundations of liberalism? Is the strength of private property, right?
right? Well, they called the cops on him for being black.
Mm-hmm.
Reported a younger black male at the property. Like what? Why? What does that have to do with anything? Imagine calling the police because you see a black person. I can't even wrap my head around that.
Yeah. Hate and mental illness, combination thereof, something like that. Yeah.
Where is Childersburg, Alabama? Let me look this up real quick. So it is in Talladega County,
Yeah. That's out east.
east of Birmingham. It's immediately east of Jefferson and Shelby County. Interesting. So anyway, the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Cato Institute, which is a libertarian group, which is interesting that they would be involved in this, and the Woods Foundation, whom I've never heard of and don't know anything about, all filed an amicus brief in support of Jennings. So hopefully, the Alabama Supreme Court will rule that police can't just demand your papers at a will, and I'm hoping that will turn out well. But we'll see how it goes. I don't have any faith that the Alabama Supreme Court will do the right thing, but you never know.
Yeah.
So there's that story I'm keeping an eye on.
That Chief Justice is one of them seven Dominion fellas.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So another issue I've been interested in for a long time is birth centers and midwifery, or however you pronounce the word. I say it's a long term interest. I don't even know how to say the word. Uh,
Midwifery.
midwifery. So the Alabama midwife people are very active in politics, and I've had some productive relationships with some of them in the past when it came to doing organizing work and like a hey, we'll take on your issue if you support us and that sort of thing. And it worked out very well. So the Alabama Court of Civil Appeals says that birth centers are subject to state hospital regulations, which includes things like the width of hallways and all kinds of other regulations that they now have to be on the hook for.
Which
So
basically
these
shuts them down
right.
effectively because there's no way they're widening a hallway in an established building. Like, it's
They did the same thing to abortion clinics in Alabama before the ban was able to be put into place. They said, okay, well, abortion clinics have to be treated like hospitals. And now suddenly they're on the hook for all these kinds of rules, like the hallways have to be a certain width and the doorways have to be a certain width. And in an established building, like you were saying, like you can't just retrofit that, so you have to move.
yeah.
So these centers provide an in-between option for individuals who aren't comfortable with home birth but prefer not a hospital birth. And these regulations would make it difficult or impossible for them to provide services. So again, the ACLU is involved in representing the birth centers in order to get them to where they're not on the hook for these regulations, which is good. The Alabama ACLU is doing some really good work, is what I've learned this week.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously, like maternity care gaps are growing in Alabama. Rural hospitals are closing. So these birth centers are necessary to have some place to go, like in your county or nearby enough to have a baby because the hospitals are shutting down.
Uh, they,
And
they only care about the conception part, not anything after.
so these birth centers, they're not attached to hospitals. Their aim is to provide a more home-like setting, so it's less traditionally medical, even though they do I mean, I'm sure they employ like all it's sterile environment and all that, and all the
For
other
sure.
safety things like that. They employ midwives and focus on low risk pregnancies and births. So some of them will have an OBGYN or family medicine doctor on staff, and they generally also usually have partnerships with nearby hospitals if something happens.
Right. They sound professional to me. You
Absolutely.
Like, they're not winging it out there, folks. Surprised
Right.
the crunchy right isn't you know saying anything about this stuff
Yeah,
because
I don't know either. Like it's surprising to me like you would think with all their concern for family and all their concern for birth and that sort of thing, like making birthing less dangerous, providing options for people who are having babies, you would think that would be top of mind for them, but it's not. Well, it's almost like their pro-life stance is a lie and that they're giant hypocrites. You would almost think that.
you know for sure.
So I know it sounds like a crunchy thing. And it sounds like you're talking about like anti-vax type stuff, but the midwife people are very solid in my opinion. They're professionals, they are safe, and they're
They
providing
were they were there before doctors,
right.
right? I mean,
And
this
they're
is
providing
uh, I'm sure, like everything. I'm sure way back in the day, like they probably had some issues helping with birth and stuff, but uh, now they're even better, right? And
Yeah.
they're doing things like identifying low risk. They're not sitting there like saying, "Oh, we can do it all," whatever. They're reasonable.
So yeah, I'm a big supporter of midwives and the birth centers generally, and I think that it's an interesting topic to keep an eye on and make sure that, to me, reproductive autonomy means all parts of it, whether someone needs an abortion or whether or not they want to choose to have their baby in a more relaxed environment with a midwife.
Yeah.
So in a state that has a higher infant mortality rate than Cuba,
Yeah.
in a state where hospitals are closing by the dozen every year, this seems like an important thing to have. So,
Yeah. I mean, hospitals, in my opinion, oh, like you should have every county should have something, you know,
right.
something, and it should be like, probably nearer to the population centers of that county and stuff. But we have 54 out of 67 counties in Alabama are rural. So we're talking about a massive amount of people when all these facilities are getting cut down, all the subsidies are getting cut. Even though I did see this week that uh, the ACA subsidies passed the House. We'll see how they do in the Senate. But yeah, it's foundational. Healthcare is a human right. Full stop.
Absolutely. And that, yeah, pro-choice to me means not only the choice to have an abortion, which I think is a totally valid and personal decision that needs to be made by the person having the baby and whoever they decide to include in that, doctors or whatever. Um, but also that implies like the right to have your baby in a setting of your choice with the kind of care that you want to receive. So, and some people aren't comfortable with hospitals for whatever reason, and it talks about how inaccessible hospitals are. Like one of the articles I was reading was talking about how indigenous and women of color are taking advantage of birthing centers and the role they play in those communities as well. So it's an issue I've been following for some time now. Um, and it's not a wooey type thing. Like it's a serious professional effort, and they deserve our support. And it might be worth when you're contacting your congressperson during the legislative session to mention that you support birthing centers and midwives.
Yep, for sure. I got a couple other things before we start heading out the door. The DNC warns Alabama Secretary of State over potential federal voting law violations. Uh, we haven't had a fair vote yet in this country, folks. But yeah, the DNC believes that the the DNC litigation director Daniel J. Freeman notes that a Trump DOJ official indicted in
They are dogs.
dog during a recent congressional hearing that Alabama had expressed a willingness to enter into a proposed memorandum of understanding concerning voter registration list maintenance. The MOU would require the state to, within 45 days of notification by the DOJ, update its voter rolls by removing any alleged ineligible voters. And they actually just did a little bit of that. I think they got rid of 100 voters or something like that. Uh, yeah. But yeah, this is related to the federal government basically trying to take over uh, the vote in every state. I wonder why they would try to do something like that.
Right. Well, they know they're going to get shellacked nationwide this year. So, but it's always it's always been illegal for somebody to vote, and they're always putting up voting restrictions and proposing more and more because they fundamentally don't believe that everybody should have the right to vote. So it's surprisingly a surprising show of life from the DNC, which I'm glad to see. Again, like the idea that Trump appointed judges and a Trump appointed Supreme Court is going to do the right thing is probably small, but it's still an important fight worth having, I think. So I'm glad to see the DNC taking this. And God knows I'm full of plenty of criticism of the DNC. So this is offered in the spirit of credit where it's due.
Trump did just take 2 L's with the Supreme Court when I'm about deploying National Guard troops. So some things are holding somehow, some way. And say the last little thing we're going to look at is Huntsville's goals for its projects through 2026. This is crazy to me that they've completed almost $500 million worth of roads. 250 million is under construction. Another 200 million is coming. And over the next 4 or 5 years, we'll have spent $1 billion on roads in the community. That's just wild to me. Like, are the roads that bad to you?
They don't seem that way, but I don't spend a lot of time in Huntsville these days.
And one thing you don't see related to this is why aren't more buses on these roads? Why aren't there maybe some buses that get people out to these places, manufacturing places, and the Amazon and Target distribution centers and all that? And yeah, so we'll see if they expand on any public transportation. They've also got Eli Lilly coming in. I'm curious about this, what breaks they're getting, what tax breaks they're getting. And this is stated this is the city director of urban and economic development, Shane Davis, he stated there's more than 12 billion of private investment in the city for 2026 alone. And that Eli Lilly facility, that's going to take about 5 years to build, apparently, which is also crazy. Like when we think about all the change we want to make and stuff like that, like these are the time scales that we need to think and operate on. Like, like, okay, let's say you love nuclear power. Well, those things take about 10 years to build,
Right.
And in my opinion, there's other, specifically solar, because, I don't want all the birds dead. Right. But this is the scale on which, like, talking about bringing manufacturing back and stuff like that. Well, these facilities don't just pop up all overnight. It's not like, making a shoe store or something, or even a mall. Right. So, yeah, the city says it'll also be supporting public safety, parks and recreation. There's a new park coming in at the old city hall building. Utilities, roads, public safety, probably 4 or 5 million just in 2025. Well, it says public safety. Well, if I remember correctly, they added about $5 million to the police budget, which, if you've not looked at a city budget, like, guarantee almost every city budget, over 50% of that budget, it usually goes to the police department, which is wild. So, yeah. but there's a capital plan that was made years ago, and you can see that on the city website. So we shall see. We shall see. Um, I had a couple more articles that uh, kind of wanted to talk about. And I hate ending on uh, like low notes, but there's a kid um, who died by suicide, and was told by classmates that he would be better off dead. This little guy right here is 14-year-old, um, and
Was that in Alabama?
yeah, he died by suicide a week before Christmas, out in Parish. Uh,
That's in Louisiana.
it This was Louisiana. Oh my goodness! I thought this. I thought this.
WAFF is a local news site. I wonder why they're reporting on. I mean, not that it's not a tragic story.
Yeah. Well, I saw this, and you know, uh, I thought it was Alabama. My fault, folks. But all the same, just I got kids, and how we need to root out the lack of empathy that other kids are taught, and then it's passed down and it's passed into the school system. This is in my opinion, this is a symptom of our society. Yeah. And related to that, there's a man missing in Huntsville, uh, Desmond Hereford, 21. And he was last seen in security footage from New Year's Eve getting into a white SUV in front of his home in Winchester Moores Mill area. His father, Kendricks Hereford, said he didn't say anything about leaving, and he said his behavior was uncharacteristic. He ain't never been in trouble. He's a good kid. We just don't know where to begin, where to start looking. Marlena Kelly said her son was active online, but his phone activity stopped after he went missing. She and Kendricks filed a persons report with Huntsville Police and Madison County Sheriff Office. And I don't want to speculate, why would he leave and not say anything, or go missing and not say anything to anyone? Kelly said, I don't want to speculate because I start to imagine the worst. Kelly told News 19 Sunday that Desmond had started posting again on social media, and she believed he was safe, but she hasn't heard from him. So the community taking care of each other, looking out for one another, knowing that empathy is our strength, it's not a weakness, and bringing that forward into the world. So yeah, just wanted to mention those two things. We got a lot. We mentioned a lot tonight. There's a lot of things to do. There's Bridge Brigade. There's folks running for office. There's the 20th for Women's Day. There's the ACLU legislative session stuff, legislative work the ledge training, all kinds of things to do in your community. And if you're not seeing something in your community happening and you want it to happen, hey, get with some folks, get with us. We'll plug you in. We'll get you moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. We're not just propagandists, we're organizers. So
Yeah,
we're happy to help out. Even if there's nothing going on where you are, we can help you put something together.
that's right. Um, there's people fighting the good fight, and even in all this dark, there is light, folks. And if you can't see it right now, I understand. You're having a hard time getting food on the table and managing all these bills, and IRS season's coming up. And speaking of that, there's IRS help in the area, like the New Hope Community Care Center. There's some other places. So if you're worried about your taxes, there's some places around here that actually will help you for free. I can't. Wish I could remember off the top of my head the other two, but yeah. If you get with Invisible, they can point you in the right direction. That's where I got that information from. So yeah, it is about that time, folks. You got anything else?
That's it for me. So next week I'll have the whatever the state legislature is working on pulled up and ready to go, and we can talk about what bills they're discussing and hopefully get the bad ones killed.
Yeah. Start getting them fingers ready. Be dialing on that phone. Record the calls and post them, folks, so we hear how it's going down.
Yeah, make a TikTok out of it.
Yeah, just make a day of it.
Yep.
And yeah, well, I appreciate y'all spending y'all's time with us. Like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. And we'll see you out there, and we appreciate you. As we like to say around here, all the power to all the people. We, the people, break our chains together. Solidarity forever, folks.
Solidarity forever.